What about the competitiveness deal? Well, I mean, if somebody here can explain to me how EU can have an electric vehicle industrial policy without counting on the critical raw materials that are in the Western Balkans, I would be very interested to hear about it, right? Can we talk about EU energy policy or green transition without taking into account the green resources that we have in the Western Balkans? I don't think so. What about digitalization? Just to bring an example, I mean, the talents in digitalization that are in the Western Balkans are enormous. The only European unicorn in AI is an Italian company called eGenius. And you know who is the founder and the owner? It's an Albanian guy. And here I'm not mentioning Mira Murati in OpenAI. So there is a huge pool of talents here, beside us, of course. Automotive. There is a lot of automotive industry here. So here there is a value chain that can be valorized in the Balkans in mining, raw materials, manufacturing, or, well, let's keep it here for the moment. And in transport, being in the middle geographical position of the Western Balkans, I mean, by taking it into account, EU can provide a quicker, cheaper, and safer access to production sites, to markets, to raw materials. So basically, we count. This is a message that we want to pass. And I will stop by mentioning something that happened yesterday. Not only Milan AC beat Real 3-1 in Madrid, but, and this was very important, but Trump won the presidential election in the United States. Why this is important? Because this election, I mean, the new president will most certainly have an impact on the energy security and energy policy in Europe with his, what he has stated during his campaign on oil and gas production, or on across-the-board tariffs that go from 10 to 20%, or on his appeal and support to automotive producers to locate to US and the penalization of others. So basically, these are all developments that in one way or another directly, let alone indirectly, impact the way Western Balkans and European Union work together, count on each other, and will be together in the future. This is all that we will discuss today. It will be a roundtable format. We will have two keynote introductions by Mr. George Bunford, which we thank a lot. You have been with us in Tirana Connectivity Forum. Now you're back. I heard that you are taking some Albanian courses. No, not yet. Well, I think some words will be okay. And also from Mr. Rizeirai, the Deputy Minister for Europe. Thank you very much, Mr. Rizeirai, for being with us. And afterwards, we'll go with a roundtable discussion where the idea would be to build upon the keynote speeches and come up with one or two messages that Mr. Holica, Deputy State Secretary for EU Affairs and International Relations in Hungary, thank you very much, the Ministry of Energy in Hungary, and also a specialist of energy and also connoisseur of the Western Balkans, hopefully will take with you, you'll take them with you and bring them to Budapest to kind of push them forward. I hope they will be worthy until the end of the year during the presidency, but also after as well. Without much ado, I give the floor to Mr. Bunford. My question, I mean, it's not a question, but I mean, we would be very grateful if you can share with us some components about tomorrow's European Union Council informal meeting on competitiveness in Budapest. What is your strategy, what you guys want, and will Western Balkans somehow be mentioned in it?
Thank you so much, dear Deputy Minister, dear Deputy State Secretary, dear Adrian. First and foremost, thank you very much for the invitation. I'm very much honored to speak today as Hungary's Special Envoy to the Western Balkans in Tirana, which we really hope that will soon become one of the capitals of the European Union. If you allow me First, I would like to explain why is it so important for us to see Albania and to see the Western Balkans in the European Union. As everybody knows here, we are currently holding the presidency of the Council of the European Union, and of course, in this capacity, we are trying to use our leadership to accelerate the progress of EU membership negotiations for the Western Balkan countries. And I think that, although everybody knows that, but I think that I have to repeat it, that we think that one of the greatest achievements of our EU presidency, apart from the victory of Trump, is that on the 15th of October, we managed to start the formal membership negotiations with Albania, and an IGC was organized with the opening of Cluster 1. Of course, you know very well that Hungary played an instrumental role in that. The meeting was chaired by our Foreign Minister, Mr. Szijjártó, and we all know that the EU Commissioner for Enlargement, Mr. Varhelyi, also played an instrumental role in that, and he's also a Hungarian. I think that we do not want to stop here, and we do not want to give up our efforts in opening further clusters, and we still hope that this whole process could be finished by 2027, and our clear wish and intention is to see Albania into the European Union before the end of the decade. If it were yesterday, it would be too late, but hope that this is not an empty promise, but it could be realized soon. You may ask, why is it so important for us? Why do we believe that advancing the accession process of the Western Balkans and the Western Balkan countries is one of the most important strategic goals of our presidency? Why do we think that Europe cannot be competitive without the region, and how will this region benefit the entire European Union upon accession? As a matter of fact, first I have to emphasize that we really believe that a stable and prosperous Europe cannot be fully realized without the inclusion of this essential region into the European Union. And that's why, for Hungary, the EU accession of the Western Balkans has been a strategic imperative for decades. And of course, one of the primary reasons for this is geopolitical. This region has been and continues to be a strategically important crossroads for the entire European continent. During ancient Roman times, it was one of the core territories of the empire, serving as key trade route between north and south, east and west. So the key word is connectivity, and I think that the same is true today. And that's why we don't believe that the region should be considered as a periphery. These countries in the region are the beating geopolitical heartland of Europe, connecting the EU to important markets, resources, and trade routes. And we strongly and firmly believe that this region is European, and we must not allow external geopolitical players to exert influence here. So the Western Balkans must once again become one of Europe's core territories, and it will be. Secondly, as our government has pointed out many times, Europe is in a dangerous downward demographic spiral. An aging population and declining birth rates are a slow death sentence for our continent. We firmly believe that the answer is not immigration, but reversing these trends to stabilize and increase the indigenous European population. The Western Balkan countries are located on major migration routes into the European Union, and our cooperation is essential to stop illegal migration. And at the same time, Europe needs hands, minds, hardworking people to get things done. And I think that these European people live here. Thirdly, and I would refer back to Adrian's remark on love and money. So we believe that love and money could come hand in hand. We really believe that the Western Balkans are an increasingly important trade partner in the European Union. The economic growth rate for the Western Balkan countries averaged 2.8% during the period between 2019 and 2023 period, and 5.3% during the recovery period between 2021 and 2023, following the corona. GDP growth here in the Western Balkans is expected to average 3.2% this year and 3.5% from 2025 to 29, according to the IMF. This is absolutely impressive because it's higher than the 3.1% of growth rate expected for the global economy, and of course it's significantly higher than the average GDP growth for the EU or for the Eurozone. So we strongly believe that with the inclusion of the Western Balkan countries, the EU will benefit by incorporating a highly dynamic and economically promising region. Trade between the EU and the 6 Western Balkan countries reached over 82 billion euros by 2023, a growth of around 60% in 10 years, up from about 50 billion euros in 2013. So this trade benefits, I'm pretty sure this trade benefits both sides, with the EU enjoying a trade surplus of approximately 12 billion euros annually. So we have a compelling case, geopolitical, economic, and demographic reasons all support the rapid inclusion of the Western Balkans, and we are determined to make it happen. The troubled past of the region also should serve as a reminder to all of us to ensure it doesn't slide back into the abyss of ethnic hatred and wars. The current geopolitical environment increases the urgency, and as we face challenges from wars in Ukraine and the Middle East, rising global competition and migration crisis, the integration of the Western Balkans is not just an economic and political issue, but it's also a matter of European security and geopolitical strategy. And I also would like to refer back to the Draghi report. As the report pointed out, Europe is not winning the global competition. I mean, it's quite clear. Squeezed out, to say the least. We must innovate, boost production and markets, and work much harder to remain competitive in the international arena. We will not succeed without integrating our immediate neighborhood, which has been waiting on average on 15 years to join the Union and would benefit the EU in every sector. And I also want to emphasize that, as Prime Minister Orban recently emphasized in Strasbourg, without the integration of the Western Balkans, Europe will never be complete. This is absolutely true for Albania. We have very rich historical bonds between our nations. Let us refer back to Skanderbeg and János Hunyadi's struggle for freedom in the 15th century, and our national interests also dictate that Albania to be included in the European family as soon as possible. Trade between our two countries continued to grow, reaching 130 million euros last year. The number of Hungarian companies present in Albania underscores this relationship. Hungary is one of the biggest investors in Albania, just after Germany. It's also definitely an important NATO ally, playing a crucial role in stabilizing the region and being a net exporter not only of goods and services, but security as well. The EU's commitment to Albania's growth is demonstrated by roughly 1 billion euro in addition funding allocated for Albania's development. This funding will facilitate critical reforms in infrastructure, governance, and other sectors essential for Albania's successful integration. However, we believe that this funding should not mark the end of the EU support. And we should do every effort in narrowing the gap between the development of the EU and Albania. We have made, ladies and gentlemen, we have made a thorough geopolitical economic case for enlargement, but now it's your turn, executives and representatives of companies, to translate the political steps undertaken by diplomats into concrete gains. Your commitment, decisions, investments, and trade deals will not only benefit your companies and provide livelihoods for our employees, but will also complete that what Skanderbeg and Hunyadi once fought for, an allied, free, peaceful, and prosperous Albania and Hungary. Having said that, I wish you all the best. I wish you a successful negotiation. I wish you great business opportunities, fruitful connections, and new partnerships. And once again, thank you very much for inviting me. If I may, just one more remark. the timing of our meeting is very important, very essential. Today we are just holding the session of the European Political Community, which is one of the biggest gatherings of our history, in the history of Hungary. We managed to attract roughly 50 heads of states and heads of governments to Hungary, discussing very important issues relating to the European security, relating to the future of the European continent. And this meeting will be followed by an informal meeting of the European Council, during which we want to put our initiative, the new Competitiveness Pact, on the agenda. And referring back to your question, Ariane, yes, you are absolutely right. The EU is very much dependent on the Western Balkans, and if we want to build a competitive Europe, we have to, first and foremost, we have to integrate the Western Balkans. The second is we have to make every possible attempts to narrow the gap between the EU and the countries of the region. So we are absolutely understand the point taken by you, and we hope that of course I cannot refrain from making comments on Trump's victory. But in this context, I can tell you that maybe it's going to be a big wake-up call for Europe. It is high time to shake the whole European system, because it's quite clear that we are on a losing side. It is quite clear that we are losing competence. It's quite clear that we are suffering from the consequences of the Ukrainian war. It has an enormous impact on our economies. It is also quite clear that the European economies are over-regulated and under-financed and underdeveloped, so we need further efforts. That was the reason why we wanted to put this new Competitiveness Pact on the agenda, and we really hope that it will be a lively and vivid discussion on this matter. And if we, at the end of my statement, please allow me a personal note. Our Prime Minister was one of those very, very few leaders who expressed their full support to Trump even years ago. And of course, it is absolutely the decision of the American people, and we are far from making any attempts in interfering into American elections. But we think that the American people took a right decision, and we really believe and we really hope that the golden age of the United States would also help Europe to make some very important reforms, and it also helps our country, like Hungary, to move ahead. So once again, thanks for the invitation, and thank you very much for this very interesting meeting.
Thank you very much, Zsolt. I mean, I take the 2027 target to complete our homework. The historical connectivity, I like it, because very often, you know, we have a very short sight of where we came from. The region is a growth source. The importance of geopolitics makes me a perfect transition to Deputy Minister of Foreign Affairs, but I will not pass the word without mentioning those words that have circulated about potential appearance of President Trump in the meeting today online, who knows, and also underlining a lot this alliance 5 centuries old between Skanderbeg and János Hunyadi in protecting the Western world against the Ottoman Empire. It is a very interesting argument that you brought in here. Mr. Uzeire, we were very happy you found the time in such an extremely charged moment to be with us. You have been with us in other events as well, and this always with a very big interest that we listen to you, not because of your position, not because you're good at what you're doing, but also because before having this position as Deputy Minister, you have been working hands-on, if I may say, on economic issues. Thank you very much for being with us, and can you please basically, can we turn the table? The Hungarian presidency told us how they see enlargement and how they see Albania. Now, how do we see those guys?
Well, no, we definitely see the assistance that Hungary is providing in a very beneficial light. I was actually talking to Peter that I had a chance to meet the foreign minister about 4 or 5 months ago in another event in Paris, and he's for sure a very impressive character. And his defense of the integration of Albania and the Western Balkans into the European Union was one of the most forceful interventions that I've seen by EU diplomats. So definitely we appreciate it, and we are very, very thankful for that. Speaking about economic convergence, which was the main topic, is a bit of a funny business in economics. I was going to mention a very simple story. The very first modern macroeconomics textbook was written in 1948 by some guy called Peter Samuelson, who was the second recipient of the Nobel Prize in Economics. He wrote it in 1948, and he said by 1961, the Soviet Union economy would have passed the US economy. He wrote a second edition sometimes in the mid-60s, and then he said by 1985, the Soviet Union would have overcome the US economy. And when he wrote it in 1982, he kept pushing the target date back. He said sometimes by 2005, 2010, the Soviet Union economy would have overcome the US economy. And of course, by 2005, the Soviet Union didn't even exist anymore. So making forecasts in economics is always a bit complicated, but we must try because the key way that we become a viable EU partner is by becoming a EU viable economy and by becoming a respectful member of the EU single market. As you mentioned, today the Western Balkans GDP per capita is about a third of the EU's GDP per capita. It's about a half of the eastern part of the European Union. But most importantly, starting somewhere in 2008, the pace of convergence to a certain extent has slowed down, also because of a withdrawal that has occurred by many Western European banks and Western European enterprises due to the many problems that they had in their home markets. And now we must find a way to reverse that, and we must also try to use this pre-accession process and this integration process as a way, as a mechanism to reverse this slowdown that has occurred.